Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Thanks to all of you for being with us today. I really appreciate it. It's a very important topic. I'm going to focus my questions first with you, Mr. Rust. I want to talk a bit about these automated tenant screening processes that are popping up all over the place. So landlords are increasingly turning to automatic screening tools and reports to determine whether or not to rent to a prospective tenant. And so who pays for these screenings? It's of course, the applicants. And in Minnesota, a 2-adult family is paying on average 4 application fees, incurring about $320 in total costs every time they're trying to find a place to live. And I've heard reports that number could go up to $800. So obviously, these screening fees are making it really expensive for families, especially low-income families, to find an affordable place to live. And they might not even result in a fair or accurate assessment of the capacity of that tenant to be able to be a good tenant. One woman in Minnesota, for example, was denied an apartment because a tenant screening report flagged an incorrect criminal record. And this isn't an anomaly. An investigation of the tenant screening industry by the CFPB found that screening services can use incorrect information and often provide limited explanation back to folks about why they've been denied, leaving renters in the dark and in the hole financially. So they paid for an inaccurate screening. So could you talk a bit about this? Tell us your perspective on how this is working, the obstacles that they create for tenants, and what we should be doing to protect people against these tools.
Thank you for that question. You've raised something really important, which is how the evolution of tenant screening reports are changing. They're becoming more complex, and one of the issues that happens from that is that it's very difficult if there's information on your report that's not true. Well, first off, it's very hard to even know if that's the case. It's harder, perhaps, to even know how to fix it. So this is happening frequently. And again, when the information is wrong and then you're denied, well, that's $100, that's $200, and you've got to try again. And if the information is wrong on Tuesday, it's probably wrong on Thursday.
Right. And I mean, that's, do you have, I'm kind of stuttering because I think that this is just so unfair that you actually are being forced to pay for something that is inaccurately and unfairly denying you a place to live. And I mean, wouldn't that go? I mean, consumers should have a right to know whether they're being denied a rent based on inaccurate information. That's part of what's in fair lending laws, right?
Right. The FTC has been working on this as well as the CFPB with filing complaints against institutions that don't have record systems in place to make sure that information is correct.
Yeah. Mr. Suero, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to just follow up a bit on the question that Senator Britt and others have been asking about. I think that consumers understand that the prices of products and services in this world have a markup. I mean, that's capitalism. They get that. But I think if you told them that they were looking at a markup that was like 400%, that maybe they would think twice about what's going on and what is really fair and reasonable. And I mean, to me, that is really the issue that is at the core of the CFPB's credit card late fee rule. And so my question to you is, this is adding up to billions of dollars that is costing people for these late fees. And there seems to be sort of this argument that credit card issuers are suggesting that these high fees are basically an incentive to get people to pay their bills on time. But that is assuming that people could pay their bills on time and aren't because they just don't feel like it, as opposed to what seems to be more likely, which is that they can't. I'd like to hear your comments on this. And to me, this sort of gets at the issue of why it is so expensive to be poor in this country.
Yeah, so there are a number of different pieces here. Number one is we know from lots of surveys and we know from just talking to people that one of the biggest reasons why people don't pay is simply they don't have the funds, right? And we know, we also see this reflected in the data. It's lower income people that are living paycheck to paycheck that are disproportionately paying these fees. So folks are in a situation where they are faced with a decision between putting food on the table or paying this late fee. That's one. Two is the CFPB collected a lot of comments, 57,000 comments. They received a ton of comments from consumers who had been paying late fees. one of the comments, so just to give you like a real world example, one of the people that commented was a parent. They had a very serious medical issue. They were paying lots of for expensive medicine, and they were working 2 and 3 jobs. A third job every now and again just to make ends meet. They missed the payment because they had worked so late that they worked after midnight of the day that the payment was due, and they missed the payment window. They got charged with a $35 late fee. So this is the type of thing, that is also an example of where this is a working class person. They had the funds, but they couldn't do it. But there's so many other things going on in people's lives that they couldn't pay it. There were other examples, like people put their payment in the mail.
Yeah.
The money didn't get to the credit card company in time because the mail slowed down.
Not their fault, and they're not going to pay quicker in any of those circumstances because they're, Mr. Chair, I know I'm out of time. I thank you for the opportunity to ask these questions, and thanks to our panelists.
Thanks,